course is the most beautiful racetrack in America, hands down.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the breeding stock sale. Book one. Good to have you back with us.
And a pleasant good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday night as we get set for closing week at Keeneland. It's the Keeneland Look Ahead. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now. We're going to look at the Wednesday card for April 27th, the first of a three-day week on closing week at Keeneland, as we've got a lineup for you of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday racing this week, featuring the Bewitched Stakes on Friday, the closing day card. But as we get started with the Wednesday program, we've got a carryover to talk about. More than $49,000 in the Pick 6 carryover for the Wednesday card. Just 8 races on the program. We'll show you in the big picture how it all lines up and where we might attack this $49,000 plus carryover going into closing week. Now, in terms of the jockey and trainer standings for that race, the coveted crowns at Keeneland, Wesley Ward and Brad Cox look like they're headed towards another rematch. Last year, it went to the fall's final race before it was decided. It might come down to that again. Wesley Ward with a narrow lead coming into closing week, but Brad Cox has got a loaded lineup. We'll see if Mike Maker and also Chad Brown can't make a run at that title as well. Kind of quiet on the Wednesday card in terms of the leading barns. Wesley Ward just has one entrant. Not a big lineup for the top barns on this Wednesday card. Chad Brown's got 2 in overall. For Brad Cox, he has 2 in as well. And for Mike Maker, he has just 1. So those 4 trainers vying for the title. Between them, I believe they've got 2, 2, 1, and 1. So that's just, 6 starters between the top 4 barns coming into this Wednesday card. Now, Tyler Gaffleone's kind of taken the command and seized the leading jockey title. He's 3 up going into closing weekend, and he's got the numbers to finish things out here over the final 3 days of the racing season at Keeneland. So Tyler looks poised to win yet another Keeneland riding title, unless there's some big doings from some of the other riders in pursuit. Irad Ortiz probably closest with the best chance to do so, but he doesn't have the numbers closing week that Gaffleone's dealing with. So Tyler looks like he's en route to that leading rider title. As we get set for week number 4, before we handicap the Wednesday card, let's look back at the stats and trends that made a mark on week number 3 of this meet, a 5-day racing week that wrapped up where Mike Maker won 5 races, including a 3-bagger last Wednesday. He ended up with 5 for the week. Bill Mott, the Hall of Famer, his resurgent barn, won 3 races. He's striking at a good percentage, and he's got some big horses around the country right now. So Bill Mott's barn going great guns, and of course, he got the champion Channel Maker back to the winner's circle in the Elkhorn over the weekend. That was great to see. Tyler Gaffleone, as we told you, he is making that run. He's got 6 wins last week. Luis Saez won 5. Rafael Bejarano, one of his best weeks at Keeneland in a decade probably, with a 4-win week. So congratulations to Rafael Bejarano. That's a look at our race week 3 recap as far as the connections go. Some interesting pace dynamics, track styles, running styles, biases, if you will, to take a look at. The dirt route races were won by horses from off the pace overwhelmingly. The average winner in a dirt route race last week was 3.5 lengths off the lead. That's quite a bit more than what we're used to seeing. Only one of the 12 dirt routes last week was won by a horse who was leading at the half-mile mark. So the drier conditions, I think, kind of had a twofold effect. Last week on turf, 9 of 12 turf route winners were won by horses within 2.25 lengths of the lead after the opening half mile. That profile was closer to speed. So I think the dry conditions last week firmed up the turf course for sure. We had firm turf conditions for the first time at Keeneland in a long time. Not just good, but firm. And that firmer turf, speed played a little bit better on it than it has earlier in the meet. And as we've seen at Keeneland over the last several meets, just the way the track conditions have been. It wasn't as bad as July of 2020 when we had those 5 or 6 summer dates that were thrown in there where the turf was like super duper firm and fast and we were setting course records all over the place. But a firmer turf last week certainly brought front runners and horses with some pace on the turf closer up. I also think on the flip side, those drier conditions, we had a drier, looser, cuppier racetrack. You hear that term cuppy sometimes? Cuppy means that like kind of the dirt spreads out underneath the horse's hooves. And so I think when you get a drier track like that, you've got to add a lot of water to it. Mother Nature didn't do as much work last week as she had been in the first couple weeks of the race meet. So a drier racetrack made it a little cuppier, and I think it was a little more tiring, and the horses from off the pace had more success in the route races. But certainly last week in the sprint races on dirt, as it almost always is at Keeneland, speed was dominant. I think the average winner was like 3/4 of a length off the lead in the sprint races. So 3.5 lengths off the lead in the routes, 3/4 of a length in the sprints. No matter how the track conditions are playing, in sprint races, it's always better to have early speed. But in the route races, you start to see some of this stuff kick in, and the endurance and the demanding nature of a racetrack. So let's see if we don't get any more moisture this week, and the track stays kind of loose and cuppy. Maybe the closers on the main track going long is the way you might want to look. If we do get some rain, though, what will happen is the dirt will tighten up, the horses will stay on top of it more, and they'll go faster and they'll go easier without getting tired as much. So there's different track that like gives another horse an advantage. There's tracks that give horses more problems, more depth, more tiring, and that will expose front runners. So you can't pick a horse up and make them run any faster, but what you can do is make it easier on them to run over the top. And when that track is firm, it's got a nice firm base on it with some water in it, and the dirt is tightened up, the horses stay on top of it more. They run a little bit faster times on a tighter racetrack. And when they run faster, they get tired less. And then the horses with the natural lead have the advantage because the closers can't make up that kind of ground when the horses in front don't get as tired. So we've got a nice lineup for you coming up on this Wednesday program. In just a moment, we are going to take a look at the Handicappers consensus box and see what my cohorts in the Handicappers box have in store for the card, where the favorites may be coming from, which races are kind of wide open spread races. Because again, that pick six today that we're looking at for Wednesday's program is one you want to give a lot of consideration to, with a $49,000 carryover. And again, remember, it's a $1 minimum pick six at Keeneland. So it's an achievable ticket. You're going to still have to have a good handicapping day. It's not easy to hit 6 winners no matter what the denomination is for the pick six. But let's look at the lineup and the big picture for the card on Wednesday. As we see the pick six with the carryover, we'll begin in race number 3. This is just an 8-race card. And if you're not used to our podcast here on the Keeneland Look Ahead, a swing race is one that's part of both sequences in a pick 5, and so races 4 and 5 are swing races in the pick 5s on Wednesday's card, because race number 1, the pick 5, will be races 1 through 5. So it'll hit the 1st, it'll hit the 4th, and it'll hit the 5th. So those races are all swing races. The late pick 5 will start in race number 4, as denoted by the P5. So race number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 will be the late pick 5. So again, races 4 and 5 in these 8-race sequences are very important. You know, these are races that are part of both pick 5s, the early and the late. If you've got a strong opinion in the 4th and 5th races today, it's a good card that you want to attack. If you get to the 4th and 5th race and you don't have strong opinions in those races, then you're probably not in the pick 4 and pick 5 plays on the particular card. Maybe you want to focus on the other races on the program and attack and put your bets on where your strongest opinions are. That's always the recommended way to go. You always want to attack with the most money on the bets you like the most. But if you don't have a strong opinion on races 4 and 5, and you're like spread out from here to, the other side of Lexington in those races, then they're probably not races, sequences that you want to be attacking the pick 5s on a particular day. Maybe you like one horse along the way in the turf pick 3. The turf pick 3 is races 4, 6, and 8, and that can be approach for you. But for me, the key plays, as we try to outline at the bottom of the page each day, as we take a look at the next day's card, with a carryover, it's the first thing you have to look at. Do you have a play or not? Carryovers are very important because it's dead money in the pool. You're playing for money that is there and is going to be paid to the winners, and it's more than the money that's bet in for the day. So there's a plus advantage for horse players to jump in on a carryover day. That's why the key play on this day has to first be to look to that carryover. Now, you might look at the sequence and say, I can't put a reasonable ticket together. I don't have strong enough opinions, and it's not for me. Nothing wrong with that at all. But the first thing on a carryover day you have to look at is that sequence. Do I have a play or not? We'll discuss each of these 8 races, and we'll figure out if we've got a pick 6 ticket that we might be able to put together when we get through all the handicapping. Now, intra-race, my key plays, races 4 and 5. Remember earlier when I said if you have an opinion in races 4 or 5, it might be a good day for you to jump into the pick 5. Well, we've got big fields, and some of my best morning line prices of horses I like come up in races 4 and 5. So that's a good sign. The way it works out, they are part of those swing races, and they're part of the horses I'm looking at to attack on this card. So that's a good sign off the bat. And for me, the other key play comes in race number 6, where I've got a horse 15-1 in the morning line that I'm not sure is the winner, but I think the horse is very live in the exotics. The reason I'm not sure it's the winner is because I think Floriform in that 6th race is going to be a standout, and I really like Floriform's chances. But I got that 15-1 in there, and how am I going to use that 15-1? That's going to be the key for me. So my key play of number 3 will be to try to work in the exotics with that 15-1 morning line shot I have with Floriform. So if I can make that happen, that's how I can get a little intra-race bingo going within the race and make some cash on the day. So let's get to our handicapping on this 8-race program. Good luck to those of you playing at home tomorrow. The 8-race card begins at 1 o'clock Eastern with a 7-furlong claimer. And we go to the Handicappers consensus box. This is free at Keeneland.com. You can check out the picks every day, not only from the Handicappers consensus, but they're also expert handicappers from various companies and handicapping outlets around the country who provide great analysis for you on the Keeneland expert handicappers page. So be sure to check those guys out and gals as well. Scott Hazelton, Tom Leach, myself, Gabby Gaudette, Kim Nelson, all involved here in the Handicappers consensus box. I like to use this because no one can see which races are the same horses kind of repeatedly coming up, you know? Those are the races where we're probably looking at heavy favorites or horses likely to be singled per se in the pick 6. And then you'll get races where just there's no uniformity to it, and there's a different horse that seems like picked on top by every different handicapper. Those are going to be the races you're going to look at and say, wow, this is probably a spread race where a lot of different horses might be capable of winning, and I might want to jump in with a lot of different horses on my ticket. That's what we call a spread race when you spread out your combinations. Race number 1 starts things off. Like I said, it's a 7-furlong, $10,000 claimer. In all honesty, there aren't a lot of great options in this race. Typically, at a $10,000 claiming level, I'm not looking for horses cutting back in distance. I want early speed horses. I want horses to the front at the lower level sprint ranks like this. Ancient Brown has the rail, comes back off a mile and a 16th race at the meet and shortens distance. Normally, I wouldn't like a horse like this, but I don't think there's a lot of good quality speed in this race. And I don't think the horse is going to be very far off the pace. And the horses who can go to the front, I'm not wild about in this particular spot. So Ancient Brown may not fit kind of the trends that I'm looking for in these $10,000 bottom level claimers. But I think the race was good enough last time for Lynn Cash to win this race. There are a lot of trainers in here who don't win races at Keeneland historically, haven't won. Cash does okay with the stock here at Keeneland, hasn't won a race yet this meet. But Adam Beschizza, Ancient Brown on the rail, a tepid pick for me in race number 1. Not a horse that I'm really overly wild about, and I wouldn't want to take too short of a price in here. The other one to watch would probably be the 4 in here, Smokin' Hot Bobby. Smokin' Hot Bobby is ridden by Rafael Bejarano, who's coming off that nice 4-win week. Blinkers on for the 4, Smokin' Hot Bobby. That's a good thing. And last time out, ran against the horse named Frills at Turfway Park and Starter Allowance Company. Frills has already come back to win at this meet. So a good company line for the 4, Smokin' Hot Bobby. You got a hot jockey in Rafael Bejarano. For me, the 1 and the 4 are the logical players in race number 1. And in terms of the pick 5, if you're playing the early pick 5, which begins here in the opening race, I would just go too deep. I mean, it's only a 6-horse field to start with. I don't think you want to get too deep in here. Am I wild about the 1 and the 4 is like super confident in a too deep? No, I'm not. But I don't think you want to invest too much more into this short field. Next thing you know, there's not a big difference between the 3rd best horse and the 5th best horse in the race. And you don't want to be, increasing a 2-buy ticket right now into 3, 4, and 5 to get horses that you're not that confident in either. So instead of playing defensively, just go with the 1 and the 4, or at least, the horses you like in there. But I'm only going to go too deep in the opener. Second race on the card is an allowance race, 1.5 miles on the turf. 6-horse field here, and Federalist Papers is my pick, and I thought Federalist Papers would be a pretty solid favorite in this race. Chad Brown, Irad Ortiz, and I look across the handicapper selectors box, and Federalist Papers is 2nd for Scott, 3rd for Tom, 2nd for Gabby, and second for Kim Nelson. Everybody respects Federalist Papers, but I don't think anybody's too wild about him the way it looks here. Maybe it's kind of like one of those protest picks where you look at it and you say, yeah, it's Chad and Irad, but I'm going to get a little creative here and try to beat this one. I love, as I said a million times during the course of these podcasts, Galileo and Dynaformer when they go 1.5 miles on the turf. If there's Galileo or Dynaformer in the pedigree lines, I'll jump on those horses if they have any form at all. Federalist Papers is the damn sire is Galileo. It's Chad Brown, it's Irad, and the horse has decent form coming off a third place finish at Gulfstream Park. I don't know. To me, it adds up like a really solid favorite in here, but everybody seems to be mixing around trying to find something else. There is also the Dynaformer and Galileo pedigrees combined in here with the two-horse Noble Enterprise, and that's why I threw Noble Enterprise in third. You're not going to see that one in anybody else's picks in the top three. On form, this is a $15,000 claimer from Turfway that would look completely overmatched. But I'm just taking a little pedigree shot in the third spot there. If you want to get creative in the exactas inch race with the 6-horse field, that horse, Noble Enterprise, has the pedigree to like the 1.5 miles on the turf here at Keeneland. We'll see what shakes out. He's definitely facing much tougher competition than she's ever run against. But if you're looking for a price and you want to try to get one in second, but for me, I think it's Federalist Papers. I think she's a single, and in the early pick 4 and the early pick 5, race 2 is going to be involved in both of those. Kicks off the pick 4. I just single here. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. It's a good pedigree. It's decent running lines. And it's Chad and Irad going 1.5 miles on the turf. I'll take that and take my chances there. So I'm 2 in the opener. I'm a single in the second leg of the pick 5 in race number 2. So we advance now to the third on the card on Wednesday. It's a starter allowance. This will kick off that pick 6 carryover of, what do we got, $49,000 in the pick 6 carryover. So get involved if you find some opinions that you like in this sequence. Race number 3, as we try to bring up the handicapper selectors box here, is a situation where we've got Fortune's Fool on top for Scott. Bless the kitten for Tom. I've got my Bariley. The 3 is Fortune's Fool, top pick for Scott and Gabby, and my Bariley, the top pick for Kim Nelson. So 3 different top horses picked in here. 2 doubles. You got the 1 horse for me and Kim. You got the 4, or the 3, I should say, for Gabby and Scott. And then Tom's on an island with the deuce. Nobody else likes the 2. And Tom Leach with his long shot plays of the day. Maybe one that you want to consider in there, the 2-horse Bless the Kitten. So a couple deep you can go in here, I think, and have the race. It's only a 5-horse field, right? I mean, look, it's a 5-horse field going 1 mile and 16th in starter allowance company. There does appear to be some speed in this race, I think, a little bit of pace. The 5's got a little bit of early speed. The 3's got a little bit of early speed. I think you can come from off of it. We saw the closers do well on the main track last week going long. My Bariley is going to be coming from off the pace. But if you look at the race at Churchill Downs last November, when this horse rallied to finish second to Thomas Shelby went on to become a good stakes horse this winter at Oaklawn. That was a good race, much better quality. If my Bariley runs that race back the last time he was in Kentucky, going this 1 mile and 16th trip, that race at Churchill would win this race easily from off the pace. So you got Rafael Bellarado riding my Bariley coming off of his hot week last week. I'm on the 1 in here, but I think the 3, Fortune's Fool, is probably the horse on the front end to fear. The 1 and the 2 don't have much early speed. The 3's probably going to get the lead and go to the rail, and that's never a bad place to be. These Laurel horses haven't had a lot of success coming in at the meet. I don't know if Fortune's Fool can take them all the way, but I think the pace scenario sets up nice enough for that one. The 4, Ballin' on a budget. The 4 is another one that I gave a little bit of consideration to, dropping in class out of some Louisiana-bred stakes races. This isn't one of those races that I think you've got to go super deep. Again, I'm on the single boat in here. I'll tell you, I think the 1, my Barley, just gets it started with the victory, coming off the win last out at Fairgrounds. The big race at Churchill last fall against much better than this. Let's just do it. I mean, it's the first race of the pick 6. We're looking at a 2x1 to start off in the pick 5. Let's go with another 1. Let's roll the ace here with the 1, my Barley. And if we can get by the first 3 legs of the pick 5 only using 2 combinations, that's $1 for 50 cents. Now, if you got something in races 4 and 5 at some prices or spreads, you can do some damage. Pick 6 wise, are you going to start off with a single and a pick 6, and then you feel rotten because you're out on the first leg? don't let psychology creep into your gambling. Psychology and emotions great for rooting for the races and your favorite horses and your favorite riders and things you want to happen. But when you're gambling, you got a ticket structure. You got to take the emotion out of things. Singling in the first leg and losing a pick six is no different than being 5 deep or alive after 5 and losing the 6th race, right? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter which leg you break in. So don't worry about singling in the first leg. If you think the first leg of a pick 6, pick 4, pick 5, any kind of multi-race bet, if you think that's a legitimate race to single and the right horse, then don't overthink it. Don't be afraid to get knocked out in the first leg. Sometimes too, when you're alive in a pick 4, pick 5, you kind of string yourself along, and you might pass some bets along the way. Well, I'm alive in the pick 4, so I'll just kind of, I'm not going to play this horse straight up because I've got him covered in the pick 4. If you get knocked out in the first leg, then you're kind of back to square one and attacking intra-race and individual races the way you saw them originally. So while psychologically it might suck to be knocked out of the pick 4 or pick 5, or in this case, the carryover pick 6 in the first leg, it might actually help you when you attack the intra-races subsequently to come in the sequence. So again, word to the wise, if you like a horse like I do, my Barley, I think I pronounced that horse's name 6 different ways already. It's my Barley. Top pick, the one horse. Let's just call him the one horse in race number 3. Let's go to the 4th on the card, and the 4th is a maiden special weight turf sprint. We don't get a lot of these maiden special weight turf sprints in the springtime. Wesley Ward dominated them last year. He hasn't won one of them yet this year, but Ward won all 4 of them offered last season. He's got the 11 doozy bats in here. Ward also has a second runner, I believe, as I scan through my past performances quickly. He's also got the 1 Charty Party. So it's the 1 and the 11 are the 2 Wesley Wards in here. I went with the 5 Extreme Gem. Now, this is one of those power posts I like. In these turf sprint races, posts 3, 4, and 5 have a huge statistical edge in these 12-horse fields and turf sprints. They're drawn perfectly. Hey There is the 3, the 4 is Troublemaking, and the 5 is Extreme Gem. The 3, Hey There's a first-time starter. I can't make a great case for based on what I see on paper. The 4 is a 16-race maiden. So there's no power post that's going to pick up and lift those 2 horses to the winner's circle. But I do think the 5 Extreme Gem looks good on form. This is a $600,000 tap-it purchase, meant to be good. Last year, tried to debut on the turf, but the race got rained off and ended up running a decent 4th here at Keeneland on the main track. Only had 1 start at Oaklawn in January. He's been laid up since. Mac Robertson brings this one back. Extreme Gem should be well drawn in here. If the 2 and the 3 really aren't that good, or the 3 and the 4 aren't that good, we don't know what the 1's going to do down on the fence. First-time starter, Charty Party. That's not an easy place to win for down on the rail with a full field in the turf sprints. So, maybe Charty Party breaks, but the 5's kind of just right there, stalking and pressing. With some race experience, can punch by and pull off the victory here. The 2 Wards you've got to respect. You've got to take a look at the 1 and the 11, no doubt about it. But the 5 Extreme Gem should offer a decent price. Was 10-1 last time out, and that's going to get us started with one of our key plays. We've got good morning line prices here. I think you're going to get somewhere around 8-1-ish maybe on Troublemaking in here in race number 4. So I would use Wesley Ward with the 1 and the 11 when we're talking about the carryover pick 6 and the pick 5. Remember, in the pick 5, we're only, 2 by 1 to this point. We can get some coverage in here. And even though I like Extreme Gem and I think it's going to be a good straight win bet in here, I would also use the 11 and the 1, the 2 Wesley Wards. Certainly the 7 Georgetown Road you can make a case for, and I thought the 9 was playable in here, never at all. So in this race, this starts off the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. Now, with the Turf Pick 3, you're not looking at necessarily going 5 deep in a situation where the $3 minimum and also just 3 races in the sequence, you don't want to spend a lot of combinations in the Turf Pick 3. You want to keep those tickets fairly limited. You don't want to be starting off with a 5-ball unless you got a lot of good opinions later. So for me, in a Turf Pick 3, I would just go with the first 3 runners. I'd take the 5 Extreme Gem, the horse I like on top, and then take the 2 Wesley Wards in terms of the Turf Pick 3. That's how we'll get race number 4. In all the multi-race wagers, again, part of the early pick 4, the early pick 5, and the pick 6. So in the pick 6, I would use the 5. I would go ahead and spread. We've got some races where we're narrowed down. But in terms of the Turf Pick 3, I would just go with the top 3, 5, 11, and 1. But in the cheaper multi-race bets, I think you can go ahead and add the 7 and the 9 in there and go as deep as 5. To the 5th race we go next, and again, it's another one of our key plays because we've got big field sizes. There's some 5 and 6 horse fields on this Wednesday card, no question about it, that aren't going to be big in terms of the exotics and races where you're going to have to hone in on a play or two and really hammer them or look to multi-race bets. But races 4 and 5 have the nice field sizes, and I think that's where you want to get interested in your intra-race exotics. So I've got a good morning line price in this one. It's the 11 West Love. West Love, my top pick here in race number 5, I should say. This is one that's, gets a little bit of attention. Kim's got the horse pick second. Gabby's got the horse pick third. But I think we're going to get a price on this one. West Love is a third-time starter, debuted nicely at Turfway, running second behind Fast Corey. Now, Fast Corey came back here in a stakes race and was a super impressive Brad Cox debut winner. So the second for West Love, the Fast Corey, was a really good race last time in her first start, I should say, at Turfway Park. Now, in her first start here at Keeneland, she just kind of ran even Steven, 5th of 10 all the way around in a 6.5 furlong race. She's got a race over the track now. Ben Colebrook drops her in for a claiming tag. It's a $100,000 maiden claimer, but Ben Colebrook does a nice job with his maiden claimers, spotting them at Keeneland where they can win. I like an outside post going 7 furlongs like this. Second time back at the meet is what I call those horses runbacks. Generally, we only get about 2 or 3 closing week at Keeneland. Remember, it's only a 3-day racing week, but we're only looking at 1, maybe 2 runbacks a day to be expected to win here in spring meets. In the fall, those horses win more prevalently, but in the spring, where you don't see that. And now with the big purse money in Kentucky year-round, there's not that need at the end of the meet to cram another race back at Keeneland, unless you really want to win a race at Keeneland, winner's circle kind of deal, bragging rights. But in terms of the purses, they're so good around Kentucky right now that you don't have to cram to get a second start at the spring meet here at Keeneland. Maybe in the fall you see that because, look, we're headed towards the winter, right? And the horses are going to be shipping and laid up for the winter in some places, or Turfway and things like that. So in the fall you may get a little bit more of that, cram to run one more time late in the meet with a horse who's live. In the spring, you don't get it that much. But I just think West Love fits well in this group. I'm not overwhelmed by much on paper. I think the 2 No Silver Spoons here, first-time starter for Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt trains. Generally, I do not want first-time starters going 7 furlongs here on the main, especially Maiden Claiming Company. Cox had a nice first-time starting winner on over the weekend, though, at short odds. So, he can get them ready to go. It's Pratt, Cox, the 2. Certainly makes a lot of sense in here. I also thought the 9, Cocoa Puff's an interesting horse for the exotics, but maybe not on the win end. This is a horse who's already had 9 tries for Keith DeSormo. So when we start looking at this race here in race number 5, we've got a big field size. And really, the only horse I have a good, strong feel for that I really like is the 11. And I'm going to get a price there. I think the 4 Nibbles is one to consider. I think that's a good top pick there by Tom Leach, sired by Candy Ride. Candy Ride's had 5 winners already at the meet here on the dirt. For a long time, Candy Ride was the leading sire here at Keeneland. Has been passed over in recent years, but this is a horse that you want to use, I think, if you're looking to go deeper in the pick 6. The 4 Nibbles is one to certainly consider. The 11, the 2. I've got 9 Cocoa Puff picked third in this race. Again, maybe Irad Ortiz helps move the horse forward, but just kind of a nibbler who doesn't win that often. If I'm looking for a top play, I know Gabby and Kim have the horse picked on top. I'm not sure Cocoa Puff is the horse I put in the pick 6. I mean, if that horse beats me, fine, but he's already had 9 tries. She's already had 9 tries. My apologies. Just a slight class drop here. I don't know that puts her over the top. She's kind of run on turf a bunch, now back on third. Yeah. So I'm taking West Love in here. I think you want to use the 2 No Silver Spoons here. And I think the 4 Nibbles is the other one I don't have in the top 3. But Nibbles is probably like the most likely next win candidate. So I would try to get through in race number 5 with my top 2 choices. And then the third win candidate would be the 4 Nibbles. So 11-2-4 to get you through race number 5. And this is a race where I think, you use Cocoa Puff underneath if you're looking at tries and supers. And with a 11-horse field and a horse we like at a fair price in West Love, this is a race to consider the tries and supers. Definitely want to use Cocoa Puff underneath, but on top, I'm going to try not to use that one. To the 6th race, we will go in just a moment. Let's go ahead and get that banner off the bottom so you can see all the way when we pose that back up. 6th race on the card is part of the Turf Pick 3. Turf Pick 3 races 4, 6, and 8 on on Wednesday. This is the mile and a 16th allowance race in here. Another big field. I mean, we got some big fields to work with, races 4, 5, and 6. I think this is the race where I said I think we've got a key play here because I got a 15-1 shot in the morning line to use with a logical pick. And as you take a look at my selections in race number 6, Fluoroform, I think, is a standout here. 4 of the 5 handicappers have Fluoroform on top. Scott's got Fluoroform pick second. This is the single in the pick 6 for a lot of folks, and I think this is going to be a horse who's going to be very tough to beat. Fluoroform coming off a third-place finish in the Tampa Bay Stakes last time to Cheryl Spite. Cheryl Spite has already come back to win the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile at this meet. Fluoroform, well-bred, well-meant. Bill Mott's horses are running really well right now everywhere, and even here at Keeneland. I love the 9 in here, nor Fluoroform as the top pick. But how am I going to make money if this horse is a solid favorite? It's the 8, Be Here. This is the horse who hasn't run since July, but what a regal pedigree. This is a daughter of Ghost Sapper out of Informed Decision. Of course, people know Informed Decision. This is a colt, I should say, by Ghost Sapper out of Informed Decision. Champion quality mare who was really good here on the poly track. She also won on the turf here at Keeneland before she became a poly track star. So Informed Decision, I think, will pass along some plenty good turf pedigree to handle this course. And I think Be Here, the 8 horse, 15-1 in the morning line, is the key to the exotics. So it's the 9 Fluoroform over the 8 Be Here. I think you can hammer that in an exacta. You can look at drilling down to a trifecta as well with a 12-horse field. A lot of options in here to go underneath. I would get some tries where Fluoroform's on top, and then we use Be Here in the third spot with several horses, if not an all ball in the middle leg. But this is how we want to attack this race. I want to get something out of this 15-1, but I don't think they're going to beat the favorite in here. So it's a 9-8 exacta, it's a 9-8 all trifecta, and it's a 9 with some with the 8 in third as far as a trifecta goes, putting that horse on the bottom of Be Here. But the 9 and the 8 are my 2 key horses that I've got to get as a key play. But in race number 6, I think we just single Fluoroform. If we have if you have enough singles, if you have enough budget, I wouldn't be against playing Be Here in the pick 6. I mean, I think the horse is going to run well. If Fluoroform happens to stub his toe, a lot of people are going to go down on that. Maybe you don't play a straight ticket that has the 8 in all the combinations like you would the 9, but more of a backup ticket where you use in the pick 6 some of the other horses you like, and get the 8 in here, Be Here in race number 6 for a little piece of it. So that's one to keep an eye on. In terms of intra-race in the exotics, for sure I'm going to attack, but I wouldn't be against you trying to get that horse in a little bit in the pick 3s, the pick 4s, the pick 5s, Be Here as the long shot proposition. That is also part of the turf pick 3. So if you wanted to work in the turf pick 3 and get a combination or 2 with Be Here, that could be lucrative to you as well. 7th race is our claiming company here, $50,000 claimers in the 7th. I've got Down Cold in here, and I thought a lot of people would have Down Cold on top. But this is another one where I'm on an island, but everybody's got Down Cold picked second or third. If you watch the show, I believe it was Saturday night, my preview for Sunday, I talked about public handicappers and how sometimes we play a little defensively. Like, I think people think Down Cold might be the horse to beat in here, but they're not completely sold on him. But you don't want to look bad by not using them anywhere. So it's only a 5-horse field. A lot of people are going to try to take a shot at beating this horse Down Cold, and so they'll put him second or third, kind of using them defensively as a public handicapper. Of the 2 expensive cuts, the other one I would give a consideration to. This one is running back second time at the meet as well, one of those run-back runners. But I think Down Cold's just better than these. I think the horse will sit second. I think the speed is probably expensive cut. And then Down Cold sits second and just pounces on him. Tyler Gaffleone rides, these races exceptionally well. Short field, a mile and a 16th. I mean, this is going to be a rider's race, and I'd like to have my chances with Tyler Gaffleone against just about anybody in here. Bureau's got Joel Rosario, but Bureau's just been hammered in the last 3, well beaten. And I just can't make a case even on the class drop for Bureau. On what I see on form, certainly respect Rosario and Ron Moquette, the trainer. But to me, it's Down Cold's race to lose. You got the best jockey in a cat and mouse game. I think it's a single. I don't see any reason to try to go against this one in a 5-horse field. So again, we're looking at limited combinations. I think this is starting to look like a playable pick six, right? I mean, there's not many races in here where we said you've got to go 5, 6, 7 deep. The one race was kind of one of those option races, the fourth, where we said we want to use the top 3, but you could go 5 deep and throw a couple more in there. Not that many races, not that many combinations where you've got to spread too deep. Let's go to the 8th and final. This is a mile maiden special weight for the older horses, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. In this one, I went with the 10 Diva Ready, a first-time starter. The trends tell me I probably shouldn't be going with the first-time starters in here, that you want to lean to experience. But I'll tell you, Jonathan Thomas, everything he sent up at the meet has been absolutely firing. Diva Ready gets Luis Saez. There's good work. So there's a lot to like here by this filly who's bred to be a miler by More Than Ready, a really good mile sire. I think the 10 Diva Ready is going to come out ready to go. Jonathan Thomas, very good with first-time starters. And again, the 7 horses he saddled at this meet, 6 have been in the exacta. Everything he sends out has been live. Diva Ready, the 10, my top pick in the 8th and final. I think you definitely want to give consideration to the 5, American Pyramid. If you've been following us every day, American Pyramid was one of our picks earlier in the meet. Led into the stretch and just got nailed at the end. Ended up second that day, going 7 on the main. Now this American Pharaoh stretches out around 2 turns, tries the turf. The American Pharaohs do pretty well on the turf, so no reason to think that won't handle the grass. We'll see if the distance is suitable for American Pyramid, but Johnny Velasquez will have this one near the front and try to take them all the way. Saffron Moon, the 9, makes plenty of sense. First start back from the year, but decent form last year when facing nostalgic Goddess of Fire. The race against Ness is draw a line through when he lost the jockey, but Saffron Moon has faced unbelievable competition, Kentucky Oaks level competition. So Saffron Moon has never tried the turf, but it's Chad Brown with a Malibu Moon. No reason why Flavian Pratt and Brown won't team up and be formidable here with the 9 Saffron Moon. I think you want to use that one. The other to consider would be the 4 Spare Cash for Brad Cox, who's just been knocking on the door and could graduate at any time. The last 3 losses combined are by 1 length. So I think the 4 is usable in here. 10, 5, 9, 4. All 4 solid contenders, strong connections, and horses you want to use. I think as you get to the turf pick 3, I think this is a spot where 4 of them may be justified. Certainly I want to use the 10 because I think we're going to get a fair price on this first-time starter. The Chad Brown and Brad Cox horses are certainly going to get bet. So maybe American Pyramid, the horse stretching out, and the first-time starter, Diva Ready, are the way to go in terms of value in the turf pick 3. With that $3 increment. And again, you don't want to be hitting favorite in that wager. So you got to try to get a little bit of a price in there. Maybe try to beat Cox and Brown in this one in the turf pick 3. But if you're playing the pick 6, I think you want to be 4 deep in the finale. 10, 5, 9, 4. And that would also go for pick 4 and pick 5 players. But no more than 4 deep. So I don't see any race in this card where you've got to go crazily deep in the sequence when you're playing the pick 6. One last look at the big picture for this Wednesday program. Again, first post will be 1 o'clock Eastern, $49,000 carryover in the pick 6. That begins into race number 3. And again, put your extra study time into races 4 and 5. They are the swing races in the early and late pick 5s involved in a slew of sequences. So do extra homework on races 4 and 5. And good luck if you're trying to take down that pick 6. Be sure to join Scott and Gabby tomorrow morning on Wednesday at 11:30 for Today at Keeneland. They'll get you the first look at all the scratches and changes and clocker reports and Tom Leach's upset pick of the day and all the great action and information that they'll provide on Today at Keeneland. Check that out at streaming at YouTube on the Keeneland YouTube page and also on the simulcast feed. On behalf of everyone with Horse Player Now and at Keeneland, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Good luck on the Wednesday card. Let's take down the pick 6.